Luz y progreso y gracia la misericordia, honor and respects. This is Ancestor Is. So today I'm doing a video on what ancestors are and what ancestors are not. Now usually on Facebook, I tend to not really comment too much. I don't get into conspiracy theories. I don't get into if people believe if the earth is flat, if the earth is round. I don't care if a person calls red crimson. I'm not going to sit there and argue. I'm not going to sit there and argue or debate if God is male or female. I'm not going to do that. So usually I read a lot of posts on YouTube and just ignore it. You know, it's just, I'm not going to waste my time. I have my beliefs and you have your beliefs, and I respect everyone's traditions and beliefs and religions and lifestyles and whatever it may be. But one thing that I had to comment, and I just commented it on this yesterday, and it has gone a lot, is on the use of the word ancestor. Now, I've been seeing the word ancestor being incorrectly used on many people's posts on Facebook. I see a lot of people say, oh, so-and-so just passed away this morning. He is now an ancestor, or she is now an ancestor. My cousin's baby died. Now that baby is an ancestor. So the word is being used incorrectly. And I decided, I've been reading this for a while, and I decided, let me correct people on the proper usage of the word ancestor, because I noticed that a lot of people are using terminology incorrectly. I did so, and I posted it on my Facebook, and I posted it on some groups. A lot of groups, you know, I get invited to groups and I join, and then sometimes people just throw me in groups that I don't even know I'm in. So I wrote this thing that I'm going to read to you. I'm going to read to you exactly what I wrote, and I posted it on my Facebook, and I posted it on a whole bunch of groups that I'm in. A lot of people within the African traditions, the Hispanic traditions, Asian traditions, Hindu traditions, Indian traditions, they were very accepting and they wanted to learn more, and so we had a conversation, a respectful adult conversation. But then there were some people who were very, very disrespectful, and I tend not to disrespect nobody. I'm not one to disrespect anybody, but I do not tolerate disrespect. I do not tolerate name calls. You know, usually I just brush it off. Al carajo, I don't care. But I don't like, especially face-to-face, usually I don't get into it online, but face-to-face I don't like name calls. It's not going to happen. To be insulted is not going to be, it's not going to happen. To be called ignorant, it's not going to happen. So this happened to some people, and a lot of people would post, well, in my tradition. So then I would ask, well, what is your tradition? Explain how you view it in your tradition, and they would get insulted just because I asked their tradition. Let me tell you, okay, period, point blank, end of story. Yo soy un brujo, okay? Everyone around me knows I am a brujo. My face is here. You can see me. I'm a brujo. My family knows I'm a brujo. My children know I'm a brujo. I'm an espiritista. I'm a shaman, okay? I wear that on my sleeve wherever I go, and I'm very proud. So if I'm going to talk about tradition, I'm going to back it up, you know what I'm saying? And to me, tradition is something that I learned not from reading a book, not from reading Shamanism, Idiot's Guide to Shamanism, Wicca 101, or whatever it may be. My traditions were handed down to me by my elders, by my grandmother, my godfather, my family. And everything that I speak about, I'm 47 years old, is through experiences and through learning, you know what I'm saying? So it's not that I'm quoting a book. It's just that, okay, if you're going to talk about the ancestors, don't call someone that just passed away an ancestor. That is an incorrect word. So I'm going to read to you right now exactly what I wrote. And like I said, a lot of people were very accepting, but then you had a lot of people who, you know, they go online and they got their 5 minute of, you know, being an internet thug, hood rat, because they're online, you know, they wouldn't do this face to face. So I'll give you that. Aplaudo, you're gangster. Cool for you. Sit down face to face and let's have a educated conversation or debate like two adults. Okay, there's no need for insulting. There's no need for disrespecting, because I don't disrespect nobody unless you come disrespecting me. And then I go all crazy Boricua on you. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, I'm going to read the comment that I actually posted, and then I'm going to break it down for you. So this is what I wrote on the Facebook. And like anyone, if I say something incorrectly, excuse me, if I say something incorrectly, then correct me, you know, and I'll learn something. It's cool, you know, I have no problem with it. But one thing is that when someone passes away in your family, or your loved one, or just anyone that you know passes away, they do not become an ancestor. Okay, that happens a little bit more down the line, and a lot of people are using the term ancestor incorrectly. So I'm gonna read to you exactly what I wrote on my Facebook. So I wrote, stop using the word ancestor incorrectly. And I think I'll title this video that. But stop using the word ancestors incorrectly. And this is what I wrote. Everyone is using the term ancestor incorrectly. An ancestor is not a spirit who crossed the threshold today, yesterday, last year, nor maybe 100 years ago. An ancestor, or an antepasado, which is the Spanish word for ancestor. And antepasado means someone who has passed away, gone away way before. Okay, antepasado. Ante is back, pasado is way back. Okay, a person who recently died, well, we don't know what they are. Okay, because we can't assume they are this. Okay, a lot of people, oh, he died or she died yesterday, we assume that they are this. We can't. Okay, and an educated spiritualist doesn't make that educated guess. Okay, Espiritismo is based on science, philosophy, spirituality, and religion. Okay, so back, I wrote, a person who recently died, well, we don't know what they are, but we know they have only crossed the thresholds between the corporal, this is the corporal spirit, and the non-corporal spirit. Depending on their merits in life, they can be amongst a large array, number, or category of spirits, okay? But ancestor is not one of them. Think of an ancestor as your educational period in life. You go through kindergarten, primary school, all the way until college, until you reach a degree. Each year, it's a step up the ladder. Each day for the dead is like a year. Each day, one day for the dead, because the dead, there's no time. Time is not recorded in the realm of spirit as it is recorded in human life. The way we record time is not recorded the same in the world of spirit. But each day for the dead, for a dead, is like 100 years for human life. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. Each one day for un muerto, someone that lives in the spirit world, okay, each day of the dead is like 100 years in human life. It could be more or it could be less. An ancestor is one more remote, okay? An ancestor, un antepasado, is one more remote than a grandparent, from whom one is descendant of. Usually, even the spirit guide that meets the spirit after the death of the person is not an ancestral spirit, okay? A spirit guide, some spirit guides can be ancestors and some spirit guides are not. It depends on each person. Each person is very different. So please, people, with all due respect, and I wrote, so please, people, with all due respect, stop using the word ancestors incorrectly, okay? So I want to say that again. Ancestor is not a person or an individual who passed away yesterday. They don't go into the realm of the ancestors. The person might, after they cross the threshold of death, they might be greeted by their ancestors. Their spirit guide comes and leads them to where their ancestors are, their beloved dead, their seres, their guías, and I'm going to go into each term in a minute. but that person does not become an ancestor, okay? Usually an ancestor starts around great-grandparent. It could be a grandparent, it could be a grandmother, but it's usually someone that you did not know in this physical life, in this corporal life. So usually my ancestry, like I'm going to say I have ancestry that are Native American blood, Taino, okay? I didn't know who they were, but I do know by my DNA that I have in my ancestry, I have Native American blood, I have Celtic, I have Spanish, and it just keeps going, Iberian, and it just keeps going. This is my ancestry lineage, okay? But, you know, when someone passes away, depending on the merits that they accumulated during life, they are either greeted or not greeted by their beloved dead, those that they had known in life, and even ancestral spirits that they did not know in life, but they do share a spiritual link within this life or past lives. So again, an ancestor is not someone who just passed away. Usually an ancestor is a grandparent or someone you personally did not know. Now this is just the way we view it in the Hispanic cultures, the way it is viewed in many forms of shamanism, in Japan, in Hinduism, in parts of India, in old parts of Europe. This is also viewed. So the word ancestor is being incorrectly used today, you know, on Facebook and in social media and in books and all that. So I just want to correct that. I'm just going to keep on correcting a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm just going to remove this candle because it's a little too close for comfort, and I'm probably going to tip it over in a second. So now I want to, actually I'm just turning it off. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about the origins of the word ancestor, the English origins of the word ancestors, okay? So origins of the English word for ancestor. So it says, ancestor is from the Middle English word from the Old French word ancestre, okay, or ancestre. Hopefully that's how you say it in French, ancestre, which has its origins from the Latin word for antecesor, okay, and we use that word in Spanish also, un antecesor or antepasado. Ante means something that is way before, okay? So I'm gonna read it. Ancestor is from the Middle English word from Old French ancestor, which has its origins from the Latin word antecesor, which has its roots from the Latin ante is way before, antecedere. Cedere is something before or way past, okay? So antecedere, which has its roots from the Latin antecedere, from ante, before, and cedere, to go back into time, okay? Ancestry. Now we're going to define the word ancestry, like ancestry.com, ancestry, Lord knows what else. Anyways, ancestry or ancestre, okay, which is a noun, okay, is one defined in many English dictionaries as one's family or ethnic descendants, okay? His Viking ancestry or her Native American ancestry, okay? His Viking ancestry or her Native American ancestry. Okay, so ancestors are forebearers, forefathers, your forefathers, okay? I'm going to say this word wrong, prognators, your antecedents, okay? Ancestor, again, is a noun, okay? A person typically one more remote than a grandparent from whom one is a descendant of. My ancestors, and here's a line that says, my ancestors came from Spain. My ancestors came from Italy 250 years ago. Ancestors, again, forefathers, a forebearer, predecessor, progenitor, or I'm not going to say this word correctly, primogenitor. I don't know how to say that word. He or she can trace their ancestry back to India. The origin or background of something. Ancestor is defined as the origin or background to something or someone or anything. Now we're going to define the word deceased. Okay? Number one, it says a person who has died. Okay? Simple. Okay? And then there's a word that says in memory of the deceased. Okay? Deceased. Dead, no longer living. We all know that. Okay? The cremation of a deceased person. Okay? Dead, expired, departed, gone, no more, passed away. And the origins of the word deceased, and of course my dog's going to bark, the origin of the word deceased comes from décisse, which is Middle English from Old French décès, from Latin des Jesus, which means of the dead. Okay, so the word deceased or deceased comes from the Latin word des Jesus, which means of the dead. Okay. Now in Spanish we have the word difunto, which comes from the Latin word defunct or defunctus. Okay. In Spanish we say difunto. Difunto is someone who you knew who died yesterday. Someone who died today is a defunto. And the word comes from the Latin word defunctus. So today if someone died, that person is un muerto, no longer of the living. Muerto means of the dead, and is also labeled a defunto, okay? Which comes from the Latin word defunctus. Defunctus is a Latin word composed of the prefix of which indicates separation. Separation from the functions, okay, or the fungi, or la materia, the physical body. Defunto, also we can translate it to be deponent. According to the etymology, then deceased would mean the one that is retired of its functions. Anything that is retired, any human entity or living entity that is retired of their living function is a defunto. And defunto means a deceased. Okay, the dead or death. Okay, the word death comes from the Latin word mortis. Okay, and we use in Spanish we use the word muerto. In French it's I think it's also mortis, mortu, which means the dead. Okay, anyone that died today, passed away today, tomorrow is un muerto. They are still not an ancestor. Okay, the word death comes from the Latin mortis, which with the same roots as the Latin verb morir. Morir in Spanish is se murió. Está muerto. Se murió. He has passed away. She has passed away. Se murió esta mañana. That person died or passed away yesterday. Okay? So the word death comes from the Latin mortis with the same root as the Latin verb morir, which gave us the verb to die. Okay? It has been generated by Indo-European root mer. Okay? Which the Indo-European word for mer is dying, or something that is dying. Okay, hence also dead, the suffix to, okay, I'm trying to read what the suffix to is taken. Okay, to is taken from the past participant, passive, in the Latin conjugation. I'm just like, I should have edited this before, but again, I'm going back to ancestors. Antepasado is not a person who has passed away yesterday. Usually in Spanish we say un difunto, someone who has un muerto, someone who has died, mort. Okay, a mortis. okay? An ancestor, un antepasado, is usually after the grandparents. And if you did not know your grandparents, then if you did not know your grandparents in life, then your grandparents are your ancestors. Even though, with respect, we say my deceased grandmother, my deceased grandfather. We don't say my ancestor grandfather or my ancestor grandmother. We just don't say that. We say my beloved grandmother, my beloved grandfather, mis difuntos, okay? So now I want to give you a few more terminologies for the words of people who have passed away, different forms of words to describe different spirits. The world of the spirit is as vast as the world. Okay, if you look at an ocean, you see an ocean, and humans, we have not discovered, 90% of life on the ocean. So we have only scratched in the world of spirit just the tip of the iceberg. So to say that anyone knows the world of the spirit completely is going to be a liar, a false person. It's impossible, because if we can't even scratch the surface of the ocean, which is right here, okay, with us, then of course we're not going to be able to scratch the surface of the world of the spirits. But what we do know is from thousands and thousands of years of human evolution and studying life and our interaction with spirits. So what I want to read right now is this. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. I'm going to say that again. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Again, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Now, in Latin cultures, okay, and not just in Latin cultures, in Haitian and in Europe and in Asia and in India and even Native American cultures, there are days that we celebrate the dead, our ancestors, our beloved, those who have passed away. In the Hispanic culture, we have El Día de Todos los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, okay? Or El Día de las Benditas Ánimas, okay? The Day of Las Ánimas, okay? Which is usually celebrated November 2nd, okay? Again, it's called El Día de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, or El Día de las Benditas Ánimas, which is traditionally celebrated November 2nd. This is the day that we honor all our dead, someone who passed away yesterday, and all our dead from beginning of time, okay? We go to the cemetery, or we prepare a special food for all those who have passed away, who have crossed the threshold between the living and the dead. And this is the day we give them novenas, we pray, we give them a special offering, food. We do this once a year. We try not to tend to give our spirits too much food offerings. Daily, espiritistas and spiritual people, we tend to give our spirits water, candles, and maybe flowers. But food offerings, liquor, and all that, we don't tend to do that on a daily basis, because then your spirits will become gluttonous spirits, greedy spirits, and they won't be able to elevate. The only time we do have special offerings for our dead, if a spiritual people, espiritistas, are having a velada, a sesión, seance, a misa espiritual, or anything like that. Again, so the Día de los Muertos, or Día de las Benditas Ánimas, the Day of the Dead, is usually celebrated November 2nd, and this is the day we honor all our dead, from the person who died last year on, okay? Then in Puerto Rico, each country has their own day to honor their antepasados, their ancestors. Google where you live, what country you live, what is the day that your people honor your ancestors. In Puerto Rico, in my Borinquen, we call it El Día de la Raza, Day of the Race, or El Día de los Antepasados. That day, for us in Puerto Rico, we celebrated November 19th, which is the day Puerto Rico was discovered by the tyrant Christopher Columbus and the onslaught of my Taino people happened. So in that day, in Puerto Rico, we honor, a lot of people call it Christopher Columbus Day in Puerto Rico, and a lot of people with Native American blood, Taino people, we call it El Día de la Raza. We do not call it Día de Christopher Columbus. I don't celebrate Christopher Columbus Day, but we call it El Día de la Raza, or Día de los Antepasados, because Puerto Rican people, within their DNA blood, we have 63%, most Puerto Ricans, 63% of Puerto Rican people have Native American blood. That Native American blood could be Taino, Arawake, Caribe, Siboney, whatever it may be, but it is Native American blood and it is in there. So we celebrate the Day of our Ancestors on November 19th, while the Day of the Dead of all our dead is celebrated on November 2nd, or on the anniversary of the day the person passed away. So if a family member passed away last year November, then you have a special misa or a special day for that day. Each person's dead is celebrated differently. But as a group, generally, as a people generally, November 2nd is observed as the Day of the Dead. Again, if someone in your family died last August, then in August, the following August, you can celebrate with a special misa or special day, because they made the crossing, just like a birthday, okay? Just like we celebrate birthdays, you can also celebrate the day that they crossed into the realm of spirit. So now I'm going to give you some Spanish terminologies, because everyone's using ancestro, antepasados, ancestors incorrectly. So now I'm going to give you some Spanish terminologies for words of spirits. And like I said, the world of spirit is so vast, it's so huge, and I'm not going to go into gods and deities and elemental spirits. I'm not going to go into nothing like that. I'm just going to go into the spirits that may have had a physical form or a physical life at some point or some time. So the first term, and I'm going to say it in Spanish, and then I'm going to tell you what it is in English. The first one is los muertos. Los muertos. Los muertos, muerto are the dead, okay? And los muertos can range from any spirit from the lowest level vibration to a high level vibration entity. Anything that is not in physical life or in corporal being is un muerto. No está vivo, it's not alive, it is un muerto, okay? So these are the dead. Seres. In Spanish we say seres, which has its roots from the Latin word antecede, which is ancestor, okay? But seres are beings. The word seres means beings, and we all have seres around us. Now, some seres could be a life from this planet, and in Espiritismo we believe in life in other planets. So you can have seres or beings that were part of this world or other worlds, okay? So seres, S-E-R-E-S, and in English, seres means beings. Each person has guías, assigned by God, guides, okay? Guides, and each person has a guide for something. You might have a teaching guide, a healing guide, un guía, okay? That is assigned to God, that is assigned by God to each person, whatever you call God, but each human being has seres and has guías. Some of these guías are protectores, protective guides, healing guides, teaching guides, from a long range. Some of these guides or guías come to teach us because of their own experiences in life. So usually the experience that you're going through in this life, that guide or that guía went through the same thing in a past life. Okay, hopefully that made sense. We also have familiares, spirits that are familiares. In European, this is known as familiar guides, okay? Familiares are spirits that have some form of blood or connection by blood or by ancestry with us. That is called a familiar guide or un familiar, okay? And in European cultures or European witchcraft, the witch had their familiar guides, and often the guides would speak within animals. And And not that the guide was an animal, it's just that the guide or the familiar would communicate telepathically by messages with that animal, okay? And we do have animal guides, but that's something totally different. I'm not going to talk about that right now. Now we have so we have familiares, we have guías, guides that range from every level, and we have seres, beings that can come from this planet and other planets. We have parientes de sangre. Parientes de sangre, which means blood relative. Anyone who shares the same blood or DNA or race or it's, you know, blood related. In Spanish, we call that un pariente de sangre, a blood relative. I describe the word difuntos. Difuntos is any spirit you knew alive who has recently passed away. So often when someone in Spanish cultures, when someone dies, we say el difunto José, la difunta Maria. We don't say el antepasado José, the ancestor Jose, or the ancestor. We never say that. We always say el difunto José, or la difunta Maria, someone that has passed away. Fallecido. Fallecido means deceased loved ones. Fallecido. Fallecido, which is spelled F-A-L-L-E-C-I-D-O. Un fallecido. Okay? Then we have departidos, which also can go with difuntos and blood relatives. But un departido is our beloved departed. Anyone who departed from this physical realm to the realm of spirit this morning is un fallecido, es un ser, un muerto, un difunto. Okay? The last one we have is espíritus de cordón. Espíritus de cordón. And espíritus de cordón means spirits of a link. Espíritus de enlace. Enlace is a spirit that has a link or a tie with us. Let's say that you lived in a past life and you had a link with a human being or someone else, and you are reborn into this life, and maybe that spirit didn't, but those lazos, those links do not break. So they come and they guide us during this life. Sometimes they might be reborn a little bit later. Sometimes maybe they were born before you were born. But these are espíritus de cordón or espíritus de enlace, spirits that have a spiritual link. Just because I am Puerto Rican today, I have Latin American blood, Taino blood, I might have un espíritu, a spirit that may have been African American, because maybe in a past life I could have been, and I'm just quoting myself, I could have been a spoiled little brat, white brat, and I'm white, so I'm not disrespecting anybody, because I know you're talking bad about white people. See the skin color? I'm pink and white, all right? So in a past life, I could have been a spoiled little white kid, and I could have had an African mammy that protected me and watched me and loved me. And so that love does not break because of death, and that spirit, it will follow me. My dog is wanting attention, but that spirit will come and watch and guide you through life. So that is known as an espíritu de cordón, something that has a spiritual link. Okay? So again, there's many proper terms for spirits, and again, the word antepasado is used for someone who has passed away, usually after your grandparents. Okay, someone that passed away yesterday or recently is never described as an antepasado or ancestro, and my dog wants me to go take him for a walk. He's kind of bored. So I'm going to finish up the video and give my final thoughts. So now I want to answer some questions that I got. A lot of people are curious about them. There was a lot of respectful people, and there were a lot of disrespectful people, and I usually don't debate religion, philosophies. I don't do that. But when it comes to the words, some words that are improperly used, then sometimes you have to step up and say, listen, you're using that word improperly. So you'll never hear me talk about conspiracies. You'll never hear me talk about religions. Believe what you want. As long as you do good and you harm nobody, you can believe what you want to believe. There's many roads to God. You know what I'm saying? There's many roads to saintlyhood. Okay? So what you believe in is what you believe in. And I answered a lot of questions, and I got some questions that I want to tackle in this section. And then I had some people who are very downright kind of ignorant, because like I said, they're internet gangsters, internet thugs, and I'll give you that for men. Aplaudo para ti. Do that in front of my face. It's a different story. But anyways, you know, I come with respect to everybody. Please come with respect to me. But anyways, I'm going to answer some questions that I got that I think I should do in this video at this moment. And the first one is, when should I honor and venerate a spirit that has passed? Now, in the Hispanic culture, and a lot of people say, well, I'm not Hispanic, okay? But in the Latino cultures, in Espiritismo, after a person dies, we tend to give them a novena for 9 days. Usually when the person is buried, sorry, my dog is annoying me. When the person is buried, we take a day of rest, and then we begin the novenas, and we do this novena to pray for that spirit, for maybe so that the spirit may find the light and go into it doesn't become an earthbound spirit. And we do this for 9 days. And a lot of people say, well, that's maybe a Catholic practice. Let me put this on pause and put my dog upstairs. Give me a second. Sorry about that. My dog was distracting me as I'm trying to do this video. But anyways, so the question was, when should I honor and venerate a spirit that has passed? Especially, when can I put a spirit on my altar? Technically or traditionally, we wait a year and a day after the spirit has passed away. We wait that year and a day, and I'm going to bring this dog upstairs. Take 3. Sorry about that. I had to bring my dog upstairs. He's annoying me. Again, I'm going to read this question one more time. When should I honor and venerate a spirit that has passed? Traditionally, in Hispanic cultures, when someone passes, we give a day of rest, and after that day of rest, after the burial, we take a day of rest, and then the following day we do the novenas for 9 days, and we pray that that spirit does not become an earthbound terrestrial being. You want that spirit to elevate. You want that spirit to go into the light. So we do this for 9 days so that it may find some form of forgiveness from the offenses that it might have caused or committed during life. And after that novena, you do not honor that spirit for a year and a day. And then we have after the year and the day, a lot of Hispanic people go to a Catholic church, or they have a misa or a velada in their house, a misa de elevación, which is a massive elevation, of spiritual elevation. That's how we call it in Espiritismo. But after the year and the day of the person died, then you can light candles and give that spirit water. The spirit needs that year and a half to transition. You've got to understand that they have just left the corporal body and they're still in shock for that year. And remember that time in the world of spirit is not measured the same way as it is measured in physical form. It's a different form of measurement. So again, a day for a spirit could be 100 years for humans. So we try to give it a year and a day before we start giving that spirit, contacting that spirit, lighting candles to that spirit, giving flowers or whatever. A lot of people will say, well, maybe that's just Catholic. That's just a Catholic tradition. Well, you wouldn't believe, and I'm going to quote this, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to dislike this, but a lot of the Catholic traditions come from ancient pagan traditions, okay? So a lot of the Catholic traditions that we follow today come from ancient pagan traditions. So if you don't want to do a Catholic Misa and all that, try to learn how they did it in your culture, how your ancestors did it in their culture. Also, it's not also a Catholic thing, because my partner is a Itako shaman from Japan, and they also do not communicate with someone who has recently died for a year and a day. Okay, so this is from Japan, and prevalent in many cultures, Hinduism and many cultures like that. So you do not honor anyone. Again, you give them after the death, you give them the day of rest, and then you do the novenas, and then you give it a rest for the year and the day, and then you have a special misa, and then you can communicate with that spirit. Oftentimes, a spirit might try to communicate with you. We don't know if it is that spirit. It could be a mocking spirit or an earthbound spirit pretending to be your loved one and trying to take advantage of your suffering and your weakness because it wants to suck up your energy. So you got to be careful with that. Another question that I was asked is, what if a recent spirit sends me signs that they are okay? So if someone recently died, they send signs. Again, it can be that person. It can literally be that person, or it could be a mocking, earthbound entity pretending to be the person that you love that just passed away, acting like that because it's taking advantage of your suffering, of your weakness, and it wants your energy, it wants your time. So it will act like the person you loved. It will give you signs that it is that. During that time when someone passes away, just like in birth, we're not born into this earth learning how to communicate and talk. The same thing with the spirit. When the spirit leaves the corporal body and enters into the realm of the spirit, into the realm of the dead, the spirit itself is in shock, okay? And it has to learn functions, communications. Does it need to elevate? Where does it need to go? So again, if a spirit that you know gives you a sign that it is around, it can be that spirit, but it can be an earthbound spirit, a mocking spirit. And a lot of people tend to think it is, and they give these spirits all these lights and all that, and then they get into a lot more trouble than they should. Okay. Also, it could be a guide. It could be a guide from the person who passed away, letting you know that your ancestor, not your ancestor, your deceased, your defunto is fine. They're doing okay. You know, they're trying to comfort you. There's, your body, your heart, and your soul will let you know. But sometimes what we think and what we feel are two different things, so be careful with that. When should I feed my dead? A lot of people think that Espiritistas, we're every day feeding our dead, we're giving our dead food and blah, blah, blah. Actually, no, we don't. On our altars, we only give our spirits candles, okay, to light their way, water, agua, to give them claridad, clarity, and light. And once a week, we give them flowers. We do not offer the dead food on a weekly basis. Some traditions do that. That's them. Talking about our traditions here. And we do not give our dead food right after they died. No, we tend to either wait on the anniversary of when that person died, or on the Day de los Muertos, El Día de los Muertos, which is November 2nd, okay? Then on the Day of the Dead, we tend to build an altar, and we give them all the feast that what the spirits may have liked, but we do not feed our dead, on a weekly basis. What you're doing is you're hurting more that spirit, because that spirit will, hunger for material pleasures and desires, and will not be able to move on. And what you want at the end of the day is that your spirits, your beloved, those who pass away, you don't want them to stay in limbo or in a purgatory state. You want them to elevate in some form, and by giving them too much earthly pleasures, they are not going to be able to move on. So again, when should I feed my dead? Feed your dead on November 2nd, the Day of the Dead, after Halloween, November 1st, November 2nd, or on the anniversary of when that person died, a year and a day after, and then the anniversary, okay? But don't feed your spirits on a daily basis, and wait to light a candle for that year and a day candle, and then give them water, okay? Another question I was asked is, what if I have African, Indian, or Gypsy spirits within my cuadro espiritual? My cuadro espiritual is my spiritual court, my spiritual frame. These are spirits in Puerto Rico, we call them comisiones or cortes espirituales, spiritual courts. These spirits are in the category of espíritus de cordón, spiritus that have a link. So just because you may be a Caucasian or Caucasian, I'm going to say Caucasian, and you have an African spirit, maybe in a past life you had a connection with that African woman, and you were born into this life, and so that link does not break. That spiritual enlace, that spiritual link does not break because of death, and so they come and they try to guide you and watch over you. So just because I'm Puerto Rican in this life, I can have an enlace, a link with an Egyptian spirit, because I don't know if in a past life I was Egyptian. I could have been Hindu, I could have been Japanese, I could have been Celtic, I could have been Lord knows what I could have been, okay? And once you have a link with anyone alive from a previous life, that link does not break because of death, okay? And the last question is, what if a person I loved, what if a person that I loved committed suicide? If a person that you loved committed suicide, usually the suffering that they felt in life is intensified 10 times over in the realm of spirit. So if that person committed suicide, killed themselves, we generally do not honor those spirits on the altar. What we do is place a separate place for that spirit, and the only thing we give them is, we never give them material pleasures. We try to give them a candle, so that it can see the errors of the ways of what they lived in life, and we give them agua, water, so that they can enter, so they can leave that purgatory state, that limbo state, and they can enter into the water and into the realm of where they need to go. And we pray to them. We pray for their sins, pray in any religion or spirituality that you believe. Call on, try not to use the name, but in your mind you can think of that person who committed suicide and say, may you find light, may you, if you are to be reborn, may you not be reborn with the trials and tribulations that you faced in the past life. May your spirit find some peace, may it find some elevation. Please go into the light. Do you see what I'm saying? It is our job that if someone who we loved committed suicide, that we don't ignore that, you know what I'm saying? But don't place them on the altar, because when you do place them on the altar, they can become very gluttonous, very earthbound, and you're not really doing justice or service to that spirit. What you're doing is you're intensifying its pain. So try to give that spirit light and water. And when that image comes into your mind of that person that may have committed suicide, pray for them. Sit down and pray for them and say, may you find light. May the spirit guides that God has sent you surround you with light. May they take you from this dark state of ignorance or darkness that you may be in. May you learn from the errors of your past life, so that when you are reborn, if you are to be reborn, you're not reborn with the karma or the pain of your past life. So pray for those spirits that committed suicide. For those animas solas. Animas solas are lonely souls, lonely spirits that are in purgatory, that are in a limbo state, that are like ghosts. You enter into a haunted house and you see a mourning spirit. It is usually a spirit that died either a traumatic experience and doesn't accept that it's dead, or it could be a spirit that committed suicide. Committed suicide. And it is our job to try to give it light, but do not place it on the altar, okay? Because when we do our Dia de los Muertos, or when we offer our offerings to our dead, that spirit can become very gluttonous. So try to keep it in a separate place. We use cascarilla. Cascarilla is a ritual white chalk, and we create a circle around that, and we place a candle, and we place a glass of water, candle, and we ask Santa Clara, Our Lady, Santa Claridad, Aizan in Voodoo, Oyayansa in Santeria, Santa Claribel in Sanse, to give that spirit clarity to see the errors of the ways, and so that it doesn't commit those errors in the realm of spirit, or if it is to be reborn, that it doesn't commit the same errors again in life. Anyways, this has been a long video, and if you have any more questions, please leave them down below. I'll answer them as best as I can. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'm more than happy to answer, and I guess that's it. You know, much respect, much love. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please, if you leave a comment down below, be respectful. If anyone is disrespectful on my YouTube channel, please, people, do not comment. I delete it. I get rid of it. Don't place wood, no leche leña to that conversation. Ignore that, okay? Because I read everything on my YouTube, and if someone's disrespectful, I get rid of that. Period, point blank in the story. Anyways, this is Sancita Brujo Luis. Much love, much respects, and that's it. I'm out. So to God, I'm a one-man juggernaut. I'm just a one-man juggernaut on these groups, and I'm just going at it. I don't even know how I'm part of half these groups, which I'm gonna get myself out of. But one person said, what did he say? Oh, he said, it's not how he said it, it's the way he said it. He came off as aggressive. En serio, aggressive? You haven't even seen aggressive yet, okay? I wasn't being aggressive. Two, another person said, you work your spirits the way you want. This was some woman. You work the spirits the way you work your spirits. I work my spirits the way I work my spirits. Cool. How do you work your spirits? What do you got them doing your dishes? What do you got them cleaning your car? What do you do? Got your ancestors looking for a parking space for you? How do you work your spirits or your ancestors? Why don't you venerate them? Why don't you honor their memory? Why don't you pray to them so that they may elevate? How do you work your ancestors? I need to know. Explain that to me like I'm a 3-year-old. Okay? And another person writes, you do it the way you do it in your tradition, and I'll do it the way I do it in my tradition. Explain to me your tradition. Period, point blank, simple. What is your tradition? Okay, you know what I am, because I explained to you in the group what I am. Explain what tradition you are talking about. Does your tradition come from a book that you read? Oh, this is good, I'm going to follow this. Or does your tradition come from the moment you were born, that you were raised in these concepts and in these ideas? Time for Sancita Brujo Luis to remove himself from half of these groups.